Okay, so we're going to be trying something a little bit different. This is the first installment of our new series, our new Spin the Bottle series. Hadafa, come here, give me a kiss.
Hey, yo! Whoa, whoa, whoa. I didn't agree about this. Wasn't in the contract.
I mean, this is our spin the wheel segments. So with these, we're going to be talking about a topic. For this week's episode, it's the season 1 of The Walking Dead, but
Walking Dead.
this can be anything.
Mhm.
This is
Cool.
just any weird crap.
Basically anything and everything under the sun.
Yeah,
We used to, we still do spin a giant wheel filled with basically what was it? Just movies and shows, or was it like
we
other
have a
stuff as well?
movie wheel and we have a show wheel.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, we spin it and we watch anything, anything. And this segment slash category of videos and talks is going to be very similar, where we talk about probably a lot of those things, but then also anything else as well.
Hadafa, okay, picture this.
Picture
So, yeah, Halloween night,
Halloween night,
2010.
2010.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you're flicking through TV. What pops up but a zombie TV program called The Walking Dead? How good
Oh.
can it be? Today we are looking at season 1 of The Walking Dead. Okay.
Woo.
Yeah, really exciting
It
stuff.
was good soup. Was it good
Yeah.
soup? We'll find out.
Well, okay, so for reference, I have watched The Walking Dead like so many times. It's a show that I could put on and like find enjoyment from it. I'm really attached to this franchise. It's like Friends to me, you know. um,
Crazy
Crazy
comparison.
work, yeah. And Hadafa has seen season 1 once. We're
Once.
going through our first viewing together.
Yes, though it
Yes.
has been a little bit.
We got
But
up to season 4, but we're looking back at season. No, we got up to season 3, but we're looking back at season 1,
Mhm.
and I think that it captures a really interesting point in time in terms of like zombie genre. There wasn't really a lot going on, you know.
Season 1?
Yeah, well, in terms of like 2010, zombie stuff
Oh,
wasn't
oh,
really a thing,
I
you
see.
know.
Really? That's really
Post-apocalyptic
weird to me.
stuff.
In my
Yeah,
brain,
I mean, off the top of my head, I think that I Am Legend came out in like 2009. Um, but then again, that's actually a vampiric curse or virus or something
yeah,
like
but no one looks that deep
that.
into it.
I read
Come
the
on.
novel. The novel.
Come
Yeah.
on. And when
Um.
did 28 weeks later come out?
You see, that was. Ooh, was that before or after? We're gonna have.
2007.
Yeah. Okay. 2007. Well, even the opening of The Walking Dead is very reminiscent of 28 Days Later, a movie which I do like a lot.
I've never watched it.
But I think that in terms of the Walking Dead universe, season 1 is such a great place to start off. When I was younger, I used to think that season 1 of The Walking Dead was kind of ass. But
Mm.
now I really think that there were so many things about it which work so well. And there's
was-
things that are lost later on
Mm.
down the line.
From perspective of someone who watched it once.
The whole thing,
And-
yeah.
Um.
Because this
once-
universe will never die. It's never gonna die.
from my eyes, it was really enjoyable, just with the context of only a single season. Like even before I'd watched season 2, season 3, and season 4, and had something to compare with it, I was sitting down and going like, "This is good. This is great."
Well,
Um,
what's so great about this show to me is definitely the characters. I think if we go to the very beginning, we should talk about one of the best pilots I've ever seen, Days Gone By. I think that it's just such a strong pilot. A lot of it is basically just, well, okay. If you haven't watched The Walking Dead somehow, which came out 15 years ago now? Oh,
Just let me through.
Jesus Christ. Okay, so I think that the opening of the show is very interesting. Off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure it's Rick who is going into a gas station and he sees no gas, and then he sees a like a little girl, and she picks up the teddy, turns
Yeah.
around,
Yeah.
zombie girl, and then Rick Grimes shoots that bitch in the face. I
My
think that
God.
having like your first interaction, like the first impression of the character is them like shooting a child zombie is a really effective way of showing how fucked the situation is, because like this is like that's the worst case scenario, you know. And they don't really show a lot of like children zombies in the show, but every time they do, it's like done in a really meaningful way. And I think that being the first shot is kind of like, oh damn, you know, anything can happen. I think that the characters of this season is what works for me in a really strong way. What did you think?
I mean, everything you're saying is fitting into my own perception of the opening of the first episode. I think it does. Sorry.
We'll cut that in post.
Uh, it holds a really great place in the opening of a zombie film. I think I am a big zombie buff. I've read zombie books, zombie movies, zombie shows. I have gone through the ringer and seen lots of zombie stuff. And an opening where it is this dingy kind of place. He walks up to a gas station and there's a sign that says no gas. And like the sign's old and the place is old
Yeah,
and like
yeah, and
this
it's
guy.
really like handhold camera, shaky cam working. Yeah,
Yeah.
like you don't feel safe.
It doesn't feel right. It's like apocalypse, but not apocalypse in the fanciful way that some people perceive it in. It's apocalypse as in like, what the hell is what happened here to
Yeah,
leave it in a state like this? And you turn around and you're faced with that scene with the child, and it's not just like a pale, clearly dead, black eyes or some other aspect that is like scary but not gory. It is like a torn up little girl. It's like
like
chunks
her
out of
face
her
is gone,
face.
bro.
Yeah. This is a dead, dead, dead girl. A
And
child.
Rick is like scared of
Yeah.
her as well.
Shook.
Yeah,
Which is really interesting, seeing that I feel like something I'm sure is going to be something that exists later on in the later seasons, but something that I've even perceived in the first season, second, third, and fourth, the escalation, the progression. Rick loses. It's not like he loses his faith, or it's not like he loses
Rick
his
turns into a very different
yeah,
person.
yeah. But we'll get to that. We'll
Especially like season 5, Rick is like a
oh.
menace. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Um
I've only seen the tip of the iceberg,
Yeah,
but
definitely. I think
uh,
that's another like aspect of this show that I like a lot, especially when like you see how where characters start out. And that's why I really like season 1 a lot. I think that the like premise is done really well, and Andrew Lincoln's acting is just
mm,
phenomenal,
mm,
because a lot of it is just, Rick Grimes wants to find his family. He's woken up in the hospital and he has no idea what the fuck is going on.
yeah.
And he just wants to find his wife and son. And that alone
Oh,
just works very, very well. Genuinely, I think that you really understand like where Rick is as a character and how his like patience and like own moral character is tested in season 1, because he's still holding on to like old world mentalities. I think that for me, the early days of the apocalypse is some of the most interesting stuff, and
definitely.
we did not get to see enough of it. I do think that him waking up into the apocalypse is a smart move done by the
Creators.
creators, yeah, because that he's our like, he's our perspective into this universe,
Yep.
so it makes sense. Like we are experiencing the world
We're
through
learning.
his eyes. Rick Grimes is definitely like the main character,
Yeah. Oh, that is
and
definitely
he
so.
holds a certain weight, and like the fact that he is a police officer as well means that he's someone that we automatically trust,
Hmm.
and like other characters warm up to him because of that.
Yeah.
I think the opening is him talking in the car with Shane, and like, they don't have to say, oh, we're best friends, but the way that they talk to each other is very, very clear that, these are two people who have been in each other's lives for a long time, and they're just munching on the fucking
Yeah,
like
they're talking
hamburgers
about
and shit.
life.
Yeah, talking about Laurie and Shane's problem with women. The sly, dirty dog. Um, and like, they get the distress call, and you can see in the background that there's dead animals and stuff. Like there's hints towards the apocalypse starting, but you're so caught up into like his own life, you don't realize, and then he gets shot. What did you think about that whole sequence?
It does a lot, is what I think. It like you were saying, starts off with the conversations very clearly telling us where their personality is, what's going on, the comfort these two people have next to each other, because it's very
Yeah.
distinct. It's clear. It's like they're brothers, in all
I really hope nothing bad happens between these two.
in all but purpose. It's like two people don't need to be the most suitable people in the world to become the best of friends. But when they spend enough time together, when they, like do things together that matter, that have meaning, a form of comfort is created, and it's very clearly shown here. And then boom, next scene, Rick's getting shot.
Well, yeah, well, and even like the way that they interact before the robbers like come and get them, um, is very interesting because you can see that Rick is definitely the leader, especially when he's talking to the other police officers.
Yeah.
How the dumb one, Leon is his name actually. Funny enough, he's like, oh man, I hope you get into one of those police shows, and then Rick's like, bitch, shut up, man. Make sure you have a round in the chamber.
I saw he's
And
like, wait, you need to stay focused.
yeah,
He's like,
yeah,
lock in, basically.
and then
Rick does this guy and says, lock in.
and then Shane pipes up and he's like, I mean, it would be kind of cool to get on TV. And like that's the first like seeds of these two have very different points of view. I know it's just played as a silly joke, but
It
Rick
speaks, yeah.
and Shane never agree on anything. And that's something that's going to be a big part of, later on in the season and season 2. I think that like the general world design of The Walking Dead season 1 is really interesting.
Definitely.
It's very gray and like hot. Like no one looks comfortable. Like especially when Rick is just reacting to things a lot in the first half of the episode, and
Yeah.
you're kind of just there for the ride,
You're reacting too.
Yeah, because as the audience, you don't know what's going on, and he doesn't know
Precisely.
what's happening, and
It adds this whole other layer because you have zombie apocalypse have this very big like what the fuck is going on. It's always
yeah,
a big like what's patient zero, what's the state of the
yep,
world, is someone fixed finding, and like that state of uncertainty it adds to the stakes, to the scariness, to the tension, and the fact that Rick doesn't know what's going on. It's not like he's been a part of this. It's not like he's been around. He has no clue. It makes us as the watchers also be like, damn, I doubly so have zero clue what's going on.
yeah, yeah, and especially like you don't see many zombies for like a
Mm,
really long time, and I think that works more like that works for the better because it's just a state. The city's in a state of emptiness. He's alone, and he doesn't really know what's happening. And I think that it turns into a very different show until he meets the character of Morgan,
yeah,
who the characters, audience members love this guy. And maybe we'll see him down the line, Hadafa.
maybe.
But
I mean,
Morgan
I feel like we've
is
kind of we've slipped past that, and I only say this because I really want to point out another another thing is like this guy's a cop, right?
yeah,
So he's dealt with dead bodies a lot, I'm sure. He's probably
yeah,
been to the morgue constantly. He's probably killed people. He's probably had friends
yeah.
who's died
Well, he's killed people from the start of the
from the
episode as
beginning.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
we've seen. But that scene in the hospital when it opens up, right? And he has this whole like half lucid, moment where he's speaking to Shane, and the next moment he's like he wakes
yeah.
up his eyes, Shane's gone.
And like the flowers are dead, which
Yeah,
is great. Like
awesome.
version of time. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and it is like when he gets out of that bed, like there's lots of amazing cinematography. We're not gonna go through it, but when he goes outside to the parking lot, and you see the wrapped dead bodies,
Yeah.
right? You gotta sit down and think, This guy's seen dead bodies before, but even he's
Yeah.
baffled. He's like, what needs to happen for there to be rows of bodies outside this hospital wrapped in white? Like, what horror needed to occur for there to be lines, neat lines of dead bodies? And he just doesn't have time to process it. He just keeps on walking.
He gets
Grabs
on
a
the
bike,
bike and he goes
gets to the
straight to
bike,
his
he starts
house.
shit to
Yeah.
his house. Laurie! Ah! Um,
Carl.
Coral!
Yeah.
And like, it's, I don't know how to fully describe it, but it's done beautifully, in my opinion.
Yeah, like
That scene.
his genuine panic and like he's crying and he's on
Mhm.
his hands and knees on the floor of his house and he's like, "Am I real? Is this some sort of coma dream?" I love it. And then he bumps into Morgan after getting
Morgan.
back in the fucking head.
Mhm.
Um, I think that like his confusion towards Morgan's like treating him the way like hostile nature is very very funny to me because he's someone like are you bit and like Rick's like the fuck. No. And like he just doesn't quite get it yet.
Yeah.
And Morgan's interactions with him, like having a son, and like Rick's already in cop mode. He knows which house he's in because he's been to his neighbor's house before,
Right.
but he's
Which
confused.
could be a
But
social
he's like,
commentary on something, but whatever.
yeah, and he's nice to Morgan and his son, and
Yep.
then Morgan brings him up to date. I think that he's a really good actor, and then he even has his own subplot about his wife and like Dwayne's mum coming back to the house, and it's a very interesting portrayal of zombies because at the start of the season, season 1, season 2, where the walkers feel like they're an actual threat, whereas season 3 onwards, they're really just like barely even a problem
Yeah.
at all.
Which is the big Walking Dead thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's the shock at the beginning, the realization that this is something you have to deal with, and the second some level of understanding occurs, the second there's a status quo is formed, it becomes like, all right, well, we avoid those.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
avoid big crowds. We stay out of like places that were populated at earlier point, and then they're no longer an issue. Which kind of makes sense, but at the same time as well, it kind of feels like you're losing an aspect of the show as it
Well,
goes on.
for me, The
Go on.
Walking Dead is more of a character-based drama. Like, I don't think that The Walking Dead is about the zombies.
Zombies. I
For
agree
me, it's
completely.
about how the world is gonna push Rick Grimes.
Yeah,
Um,
and push
in a
people in general.
universe like The Last of Us, I feel like the zombies get worse with time.
Yeah.
You're a runner, and then you're a clicker. Well, you're a stalker, then a clicker, then a bloater, and then you could turn into other things as
Other
well.
things. Okay.
Whereas with The Walking Dead, you get slower over time as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Um,
When winter comes, you're basically cooked.
yeah, in season 1, you see like Dwayne's mum comes back to her old house because there's like remnants of something going up there. I know this is jumping ahead, but in season 2, I've watched this series so many times, but you brought up the fact that when they're looking for Sophia, spoilers, there's zombies in the church sitting forward, and like that's just because of a routine habit.
Yeah. Almost like a muscle memory.
Yeah, that creeped me out.
I mean, it's
I've
creepy what you've
never
seen.
thought about it that way before until you brought it up. But yeah, season 1, there's still like shades of people still in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I find that interesting. I just think that Rick's character is very like it works. Like this works as a movie. He's brought up to speed. They go get the guns, and Rick and Morgan dap up, and then they go their separate ways.
That's the
Yeah,
gist. That is the gist.
yeah. And like he's going towards the city. He takes out a picture of his wife and son, important for later,
Mhm.
and then off he goes. His car breaks down. He gets onto a horse and he walks into the dead city. Now that shot, you could think of the shot that I'm thinking of, right?
Yep.
That is stripped like right out of the comics. In
Oh
terms of like
yeah.
a comic book adaptation, I actually think that it's pretty good. I think that so recently we've been getting Invincible, and with that, it seems like criminally faithful to the source material, another Robert Kirkman property actually. Whereas I think that this works better as like a TV show in terms of I think that you're allowed to make changes to this
Okay.
specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know in the comics there's kind of less filler. Um, this is more of an issue with like season 2. Bearing in mind, I've read like a lot of the Walking Dead comic books. Um, yeah, there's a way less filler and like bullshit in season 2 onwards. But season 1, Days Gone By, it's pretty faithful.
Right.
The whole like trapped at the department store thing, that is gone from the comic books. That is not in it.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, but I prefer that. I mean, I prefer what we got because that gives us time, like downtime with the characters. But yeah, moving back a bit, Rick gets ambushed by the horde of zombies. That's the first time you see, oh shit, this is a real threat. He gets underneath the tank, he gets into the tank, and then he hears the voice on the radio, which is Glenn.
Yep.
And I
My
think that
boy.
it's pretty good, to be honest. Like Days Gone By, amazing fucking amazing pilot.
Amazing
Yeah.
pilot. I remember watching this and being like, all right, I'm sold.
Yeah.
Let's go. Season
And
1.
he has that aerial shot of them going up, and there is a lot of dead people.
Also, we didn't talk about how the horse got murked.
Yeah, we're gonna have a moment
R.I.P.
of silence for
Yep.
the horse. I'm just telling you now that The Walking Dead is a dick to horses. um,
Yeah,
there's
moment
a
of silence, horse.
really funny fucking picture of Andrew Lincoln with that horse.
Oh,
I'm gonna show you afterwards, but it's really funny.
okay.
Yeah. But yeah, okay. So I'm gonna talk in generalities for like the rest of the season. I don't feel like I need to go
Sure.
like bar for bar, word for
Yeah.
word.
I feel like it should be noted. We didn't really touch on the whole the Shane and Laurie thing.
Well, that's not really mentioned too much.
It
in
is. They do the thingy. Season 1 of episode 1, right? Oh, unless I'm
I
tripping.
think it's the opening of episode 2 or episode 1. I haven't seen it in a while.
Well, suffice
But
it to say, wild,
you
whack,
see,
crazy.
that is like really, it builds tension really well. You see the
Yeah.
picture with him and Laurie and Carl,
Mhm.
and then it cuts to them two banging, bro. He's this rap
Crazy whack.
bastard.
And I don't. The way they do this is very interesting. In fact, the way they deal with Shane as a character could
Yeah,
deserve a
I think
podcast in
that
and of itself.
Shane works really well in the series more than the comic books. He
Right.
dies very quickly in the spoilers. He dies very quickly in the comic books, whereas Shane is really fleshed out as a character in the series. Season 1 Shane as well is him more normal, and
It gets down over on the.
yeah, he does like
Wait. There's a scene in season 1 that is.
yeah,
Um. Yeah.
there is something that's bad.
Yeah. But we'll get to that.
Yeah. Um, but what was I saying? Yeah, generality. So, in terms of like character dynamics, the whole department store scene works for me in the TV show way more than the comic books because you can see how different people react to Rick joining the group, especially the fact that he's already dressed up in his log police outfit and gear uniform. But you know, you have someone like Mel, for example, who is a druggie and a really bad bloke and racist. And Nick? Who the fuck is Nick? Rick like knocks him out and like, you know, handcuffs him to a roof. Sure, nothing bad happens to him.
Enjoy one.
Yeah, and
I mean, like there are some stuff we're skimming through. It's when we're dealing with the whole. So yeah, he gets saved by what's his
Glenn.
name? Glenn. He gets connected to the people who are stuck in the place. They're all pissed off at Rick, right?
Yeah, because you know they got
They've got a bunch of zombies to him.
yeah,
They're all like, "What have you done to us? You've killed us all." And then that kind of sets the tone for their entire interaction.
yeah,
And it is just this case of everyone being like, "Oh no," and then Morrow just being an absolute arsehole, especially to T-Dog, because he's very much a classic redneck.
Yeah.
He is the the he's the cliche white guy who's racist. Not so racist that like he'd do something crazy just because of his skin color, but more than enough racist that in the situation where he's pissed off and he's in an apocalypse, so he thinks there are no stakes, he turns around to this person and he treats him like trash, and it is
Yeah.
horrible. Rick sees this. Rick marks him as like
There ain't
his
no N words anymore.
exactly. Rick mocks this guy as an asshole, right? You can
Yeah.
I don't know if this is as true to my memory as it is the actual show, but I remember Rick mocking him this guy and then it being like he was back to being a cop. Like cuz I'm sure when you're a cop you have
Yeah.
to deal
No,
with a bunch of like
there's a few shades of that in season 1 specifically,
mhm.
where he just turns it on and he's in cop mode.
Yep. And he's like, "All right, this guy's an asshole. He's unreasonable. Got to deal with him." And he
Yeah.
does deal with him.
And like this is a very reasonable person in season 1 especially. You'll see how he escalates down the line, but like
Yeah.
his humanity is something which is really important.
Yeah, and the lack thereof.
Yeah, down the line. Yeah. Even Glenn respects him immediately.
My boy.
Yeah.
I think Glenn just saw the dog in him. I can't lie. I remember that episode. He saved him, and he was like, "This guy's good."
Yeah,
Plus,
yeah.
he had a bunch of guns
Morales
on
as
him.
well. Andrea's a bit annoying, but they actively come up with solutions to try and escape, and also some of those solutions are relevant to what they did previously. For example, Jackie is like used to work for like building contractors or some shit, so
Yep.
she suggests like going into the sewers, which is really important because she used to do that. Little bits of knowledge like that. Even like the zombie that they cut up used to be an organ donor and like had a wallet and like a pretty girl in it. Like all of these things kind of just highlight that these are all everyday normal people, and that's what works. And that's something which is lost down the
Yeah.
line.
It is. I mean, I feel like that's faithful to how it would function. You know,
Yeah,
in
no,
a zombie
definitely.
apocalypse.
Yeah, and like you even have, in a few episodes later, you got Andrea and Amy talking about their parents, and then they start crying in the boat, and they're wondering if their dad got out safe. Like
Yeah,
it's things like that which
the boat
work for
scene.
me in this show.
Because
And,
it
go on.
it's about the people. It's about the
Yeah,
people.
yeah,
It's about the dead. It's about the dead that aren't dead yet. And
yeah.
it's so horrifyingly scary. Obviously, me and you, Nathan, we've played the Walking Dead games.
Yeah, the Walking Dead Telltale games, which spoiler alert, we
Spoiler,
love.
amazing.
Yeah.
And it is just so scary how this ain't about the zombies.
No,
This
no, yeah.
never was about the zombies.
That for
No
me.
one cares about the zombies. Chuck the zombies away, right? This is about the people, how they
Yeah, and I think
react.
that they get put into really interesting situations. I think like the first half of this, not half the season, but the first like narrative arc, is
Mm,
that you see Rick working his fucking ass off to get back to his wife and son, and like there's that moment when they see each other for the first time, and Carl starts running to him, and then Laurie shows up and everyone's crying, and then Shane's like, oh my god, what the fuck. I think that it works so well, and it's interesting because we've only spent like an hour tops with these characters, and yet like I'm really like I felt that shit.
yep.
And I think that this down the line, long ways down the line, similar situation happens, and I just didn't feel anything,
I believed.
which is really upsetting.
Yeah.
um
It's depressing.
Yeah, whereas this works for me like a lot. And then you have, Rick's whole introduction to the camp. And also Rick is going to eventually be the leader of all these people. You could see how the dynamics start to shift and how people start to look for Rick to be the moral center of the group
Definitely.
and
You
to
see
make
that scene.
plans.
That scene when Laurie and Carl jump into his arms, and it's like, I think everyone has a bit of a reaction because like all these
Everyone's
people,
shocked.
all these people lost someone.
Yeah,
And even if they hadn't really lost like any like even the older people who hadn't had much to begin with, it's like they lost the idea of being safe. They lost the
yeah,
idea of having a home, having someone to
just
hug.
hope in
Hope.
general.
And then you see this family reuniting, and Shane is Shane. Shane is Shane.
The thing is, like, what's great about that scene is that I do genuinely believe that Shane is
Shane is
happy that
relieved.
Rick
He's
is
relieved. Yeah.
not dead. And then he thinks about it for more than a second.
And then he's like,
Oh my
"Oh
god.
shit,"
Yeah.
which is reasonable. He did some wild shit. But yeah, it is. You see that scene, and it's kind of like a watershed moment, and it kind of feels like everyone was in amber almost. Like they were moving, they were trying to live, but they were barely surviving.
Yeah.
And like I swear, like right before they come back, doesn't he like shoot a bunch of zombies? Or is that
No,
after they
so
go back?
this is, yeah, that's when they
Yeah, 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 yeah,
return.
yeah, yeah.
Because
Right,
what's I was saying about how the writers put the characters in really interesting positions is that, like, episode 3, I think it's Tell It to the Frogs.
right.
Pulling it up. Yeah. Episode 3 for me is where things get really interesting. So
Hmm.
not only are we introduced to the best character in the franchise, Daryl Dixon, um, this is where things get really
My second
interesting
boy.
for the group. Yeah, because you have Daryl who comes back with his squirrels, and like he's very, very hostile. Well, the thing is, he's not outwardly mean to the group. He just like disses them a lot. Like he's fucking throwing shade at Dale,
Know about it, old man. You take that stupid hat and go back to on Golden Pond.
and he's like, don't you people know nothing about like shooting them in the head? Fun fact, that's actually Robert Kirkman. Is the first zombie kill that
Right.
Daryl Daryl killed. Um,
Daryl Dixon.
and then there's like he pulls a knife onto Rick, and Shane and Rick both understand each other, and they get him in a headlock. And that whole interaction is very much something that it seems that they've done before many times to just drunk assholes
Yep.
out of pubs.
It's like
These
they
are
have,
two police officers, and he's like, "Yeah,
yeah,
what's the knife?" And then they get him. Um,
very much cop mode moment.
yeah. So Rick wants to go back for the guns and for Merle,
Yeah.
whereas Shane thinks that he should stay in camp. So Rick,
The
Glenn,
first of many moments where
yeah.
Shane and Rick have a disagreement.
Well, the thing is, this not only is Rick right to a degree, like
Mm,
his humanity is just he will always try and do what he thinks is right.
is correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And Shane is about survival. He
Yep.
thinks that if you stay there, then if there's more men in camp, then
They
we're
don't
not gonna die.
die. If they don't die, they
And
continue surviving. That's the
later
most important thing.
on, their camp does get attacked, but they needed the guns to protect
Survive from
everyone.
that
So
attack.
they
It's
were
catch
both right.
22,
Yeah,
but
they were
Rick was
both
in the right.
right. Yeah,
I think Rick was in the right because it's like in a situation where he listens to Shane, people die
yeah,
and they can't defend themselves. In a situation where they listen to Rick, which was what happened, people die and they can defend themselves.
yeah.
Those are the two situations that are
Well,
being dealt with.
we're first introduced to a separate group from the survivors, and that is the like Vatos gang, I
All
think.
right, I
And
said.
they are really
Feels
stupid
racist. Anyways,
because they like are people who turn. You think that they're a hostile group, and they kidnap Glenn.
yeah,
And
it's because
Daryl's.
they are a hostile group, but
Yeah,
it's like they're a hostile group for not the reasons you think. They look like a
yeah,
bunch of like gangbangers. They look like they're about to be like, "I say I'm gonna cut off your finger," um, but
yeah.
you get pushed in that situation, and then was it grandma walks out?
Yeah, yeah, fucking Granny shows up, and it turns out that they're just pretty good guys, you know? They're
And
just trying to
nurses.
look after the old people who the nurses dipped on.
Yeah,
Yeah, insane work. And you see Rick actually give like half the guns to these guys as well. So that shows his character. And then Daryl doesn't like that shit at all. Daryl will grow. Daryl grows
how gross.
in an insane way. His character development is
And can I
fantastic.
just say, beautiful, beautiful character development.
Yeah.
It is done sensationally. It's done distinctly as well. It's not like I can't lie. I do love myself a good redemption arc, or even like a character arc. Anything or characters develop and change and morph into something else. Daryl doesn't go from being like character A to character B. Daryl's Daryl from day
Yeah,
one.
he never changes like
The
his core, but you
the way he
understand who
responds.
he is, and he becomes like a leader down the line.
Yeah.
He's
Well,
someone who is
season 4,
like,
but
yeah, no, you haven't about season 3, but like I'm telling you, he is, eh, yeah, he changes a lot, and he's like lost so much along the way, and
with Meryl especially. So this episode, it was.
yeah,
I mean, I think it was pretty reasonable for him, for Daryl to be unreasonably angry at
that's the thing.
everything.
You can understand
Yeah,
every single character's point of view, apart from Mel.
except for Meryl, who's
Yeah,
just a redhead.
redhead.
He's a redhead. Because yeah, he was left on the ceiling, and then the next thing
The
they know,
ceiling on the roof.
on the roof, on the ceiling. And then the next thing they know,
Spider-Man, oh,
they come back, and all that's left is his hand.
yeah, yeah. I think that yeah, it's just done incredibly well, and I think that there's a specific point in time in which the group see Rick
Anoint and appoint both work.
Rick as their leader is when Rick suggests to go to the CDC, which you heard from Morgan, and then Shane says to go to Fort Benning for like the military camp, and the group decide to go to the CDC. And then there's like an unspoken agreement there that Rick is kind of taking charge. There's a whole Jim subplot about digging holes in the last episode we spoke about. And I find that to be quite interesting as well. You know, Jim is just this weird side character, and then like
Random Jim.
he saw the future or some shit.
I think he was just having a moment, bro.
He
And
was
I
just
think
having a really big moment, yeah.
I think he was like, we're all gonna die. I should start some digging. And then he was right.
Yeah.
Was it dream? Did he have a dream? He
He
like
had
he,
like
he fell
a
asleep,
fever
had a
dream or some
dream,
shit, yeah.
and in the dream he was digging graves, and
And
he
then
started digging
everyone
graves,
died.
and then everyone died. Well, two people died. Oh, the Shane scene. The Shane scene. Okay, in my eyes, this is when it starts being like, oh wait, Shane isn't a two-dimensional character. There is so much things going on with this brother. It cannot be it cannot be fully put into words, right?
Yeah.
Because you have this scene, Shane's pissed. I think he has a conversation with Laurie, things are going on, he's trying to fix things. Laurie's like, no, like everything is falling apart for him basically on top of everything else. But he's also dealing with the fact that his brother came back from the dead, and he's also
Yeah.
dealing with the fact that his brother didn't listen to him and decided to go off to find some guns. And he's just this mess of emotions all
But he thinks that to be a good father to Carl,
he had to stay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's a few Shane scenes like in camp. We have to go to talk about Carol, who's in an abusive relationship with Ed.
That's the thing I was just
And,
about to come up to.
yeah.
Go on.
And like post-apocalyptic, what do you do in that situation? You are the you
Fight
are
me.
the police, or you were the police, and everyone knows that Ed's abusive, and
No, not just knows, right? It's like there's a difference between it's really scary and sad and depressing, but people get abused all the time, constantly in relationships. It's hidden, it's secret, it's
yeah,
considered not
we
to be
don't
a
like
big
that on
thing.
the Web Sputters.
We hate that. We
YouTube
we
channel.
hate
Yeah.
them abuses in the worst sources. But it is a case of when it's unseen, it's unspoken of. It's
Yeah.
like the bruises are excuses, the everything else is set aside because you don't see it, so it's not your problem. Because even if it is even if you have seen it, even if you're suspecting of it, it's not your problem. It's not my life. If she wanted help, she'd come to me, she'll ask me for help. You build excuses for yourselves, and if you don't build an excuse for yourself, someone else will for you. Don't worry. And that's kind of the shitty place we are in society. It's really
Yeah.
depressing. Obviously, some people break that, but that's not the situation we see here in camp because people know it's going on. Like, I don't know if it's happened in public before, but there have been moments where he says very cruel things, where he's done very cruel things, and people can tell, like, oh, this guy isn't abusive, non-capitalization. He is abusive, capital every single letter in that word. He is not a good guy in any way or form, and it's to the extent where you can see in her eyes, you can see in the way she reacts. She doesn't want to stop being with him.
When I tell you, Carol has some of the most insane character development.
Because she's like this southern girl. I don't know if she's southern actually, but I'm applying labels to her. The southern
Yeah.
girl who has a husband thrown into this situation, probably had an abusive relationship beforehand, but she was like, I'll live, I'll survive. I have a daughter. I have shit to do. I do not care if my husband
Carol
raises a hand against
becomes
me.
the John Wick of this universe.
Yeah.
And this is where she starts, like as a
Bottom rungs.
weak, person, and
Yeah.
then
And it is kind of like, all right, if you live in a real life world, right? You go to work, or you're a housewife, you go get your kids from school, you come back, your husband beats you. That's it. Normal day. You wake up the next day, and it is just, day to day. At least he doesn't beat my child. She thinks that in her head. This is
Yeah,
what I imagine she'd be thinking. And she lives with it. She gives up on looking for help, because that's how abusive relationships work. They don't think, oh, I need help. They think,
it's
I.
excuses. Because even when Shane beats Ed, Carol apologizes and runs to Ed.
Which is why she's screaming to stop. So
Yeah,
yeah, obviously. So Shane dealing with this whole crazy ass bullshit. You have a scene in the camp where the whole kind of like societal, like, oh, if it's unseen, you make excuses for stuff. That gets thrown to the bushes when he backhands his wife. Was it a backhand? Was it a punch? I'm pretty sure it was
yeah.
a
So
backhand.
what happens is Carl, Laurie, and Shane are having their own domestic. Obviously, Shane took Carl out to catch some frogs.
Hmm.
And then Laurie's like, "What are you talking to my son for?" Which I think is kind of unreasonable because they were. It's just a confusing situation. Like it's
Situation.
fucked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. It's a mess.
I think Shane I think everyone is right because Laurie can be mad at Shane for the situation. Shane genuinely did think that Rick was dead.
Hmm.
Carl's confused. He doesn't know what's going on. And then you've got the ladies. This is a thing about season 1 is that in the first 2 seasons of The Walking Dead, there's a real weird like sexist type subplot. Not subplot. It's just I'm very aware that like the women do a lot of the cleaning and like the
Getting
gathering and
clothes.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and keeping the camp functional while the men go and do what the men do. That is something which is lost down the line for the better.
Yeah, definitely.
Because like down in season 3, every member of the group is valuable. Especially like even Carl, who's still a kid.
Yep.
But yeah, all the women are washing the clothes. Ed's just like smoking, and they're all having a good time. They're talking about how they miss their like vibrators and some shit. And then
Fucking
Carol's
hell.
like, "Yeah, me too, bro. This is Ed sucks." And then they start like having a domestic, and then Shane jumps in, who's already pissed off
Yeah,
with the situation
after he hits his
with
wife.
Laurie. Yeah, after he hits his wife, and he beats
Goes
the shit out of
wham.
Ed.
There's not one punch, not two.
Nah, man,
He
this guy kept
keeps
going.
going.
Yeah,
Like, she tries to go to her husband to stop Shane, and she's being held back by all the other girls.
yeah,
The same way they were trying to hold him back from being her.
yeah.
And Shane, like everyone was screaming, like, stop, enough. Then Shane is not stopping. He's in a fugue state. And it is just like, you can appreciate in that moment of time, like, number one, hell yeah, fuck this bitch. Like, I don't
Look,
like this guy.
violence isn't good at all for anyone, but like in the terms of like the
This guy
situation,
deserved this.
it's really bad, isn't it?
But yeah. And then on a second level, you're like, oh, Shane is going. This guy has some problems.
He's
He
holding
needs.
some stuff in.
Yeah. And then the third level, um, what's her name?
Andrea,
No,
Carol.
Carol. There. Carol is not in a good place either. Because why is she running up to her beaten husband, going sorry, sorry, sorry?
Well, it's interesting because, like, I think there's a real cathartic moment for Carol's character in the next episode when he's dead, and you need to put him down, but
Yep.
by stabbing him in the head. And Daryl gives Carol the like
Pickaxe.
pickaxe, and she kills him.
Gets to pick him.
And that's the first interaction between Daryl and Carol, which is the best friendship in the entire series of the show.
Spoilers.
Yeah, I mean we're only up to season 3, but
I mean, it's already up there. They've had some really good interactions.
yeah,
Some really sad and like
but these are two
eye-opening
people
interactions.
who are survivors of abuse,
Yep.
and that's why they understand each other profoundly,
Yep.
and that's why it's so nice to watch these
And
two people grow together.
it is a case of for the more gritty stuff, Daryl seems to understand her. It's like with the whole pickaxe thing, he gets it 100%.
Yeah,
He understands it.
yeah,
And later on, she gets him. It's like
Yeah.
in the later seasons, her daughter goes spoilers. Her daughter goes
Spoilers.
missing, and Daryl starts looking for her, and then he has kind of like this breakdown where he's like, why do I have to? And he's kind of going through this, but it's like he's not saying that for anyone else. He's saying that to himself. He's
Yeah.
going like, why do I care so much?
Yeah.
And like she understands his pain. She understands where it's coming from, and it's kind of beautiful.
They've just both come from like the same place. It's it's so good. But
Good too.
even season 1 Daryl like kind of gets that.
Definitely.
And then there's also like a scene in the woods with Shane and Rick, Shane contemplates shooting Rick in the fucking back. I forget about that a lot. But
Yeah.
and Dale, that's the first hints towards Dale distrusting Shane.
My goat.
Yeah. But I think a card which I mean I've consumed a lot of Walking Dead content online, and like I've heard people say that they've played the CDC card too soon. Obviously, they weren't sure how many seasons they were going to get of the show.
Right.
And in the comics, they didn't go to the CDC till like later on. But I think that it kind of works for like the season finale. The last 2 episodes are set in the CDC, and
Yeah.
you finally start to get some answers.
They rush up to the door.
Yeah,
They're
Rick
banging on it,
is
begging to be
going
let in.
crazy. He's begging. He's like, "Please, we have kids," and then you're introduced to Dr. Edwin Jenner. And this
But
isn't bad.
before that,
Okay.
we get, and I did watch a recap before this recording, but from what it showed, we get the Shane flashback right before they enter. Right, Nathan? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, wait, what happens in the flashback?
Shane is he's seeing Rick in the hospital, and
Yeah. Good stuff. Good to
oh my god, good stuff. Is it good stuff? My god.
because like when I tell you, I genuinely understand
What,
well, I don't genuinely understand it, but like I could see the chaos, and like he's in a really bad situation.
Okay, do you want to go ahead and explain it?
Right, so Shane's he's in the hospital looking at Rick's lifeless coma body,
Lifeless.
and he's like, look man, if you need to wake up, now is the time, okay? Please. Soldiers are coming door to door, they're shooting patients, they're shooting nurses. It is fucked. Bombs outside, and the bomb hits, and the life monitor, fucking, what's it called?
EKG.
Yeah, it goes off, and Shane puts his ear to his chest, and he's trying to hear a heartbeat, and he's not hearing shit.
Yeah.
And Shane leaves. He bars the door, and he runs off to save his own life.
In every situation, Rick is
Because how?
there are soldiers coming door to door. There are bombs going off. There is a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
He checked his heartbeat, and nothing.
And not only does he
is dead.
survive, but he finds his family as well.
He finds his family.
And I get it. Like genuinely, I
Isn't
get it.
Isn't it such a beautiful? Because you introduce this character Shane, and it's like this guy's a complex human being. Shit's going on. This, that. He's thinking about women. This guy isn't the nicest guy in the universe. Clearly he has a couple of issues.
Yeah, he's a bit misogynistic.
He's a little bit misogynistic, but he's not a bad dude.
Yeah, no, I don't think Shane is bad until he forces himself on Laurie.
Which we're coming right up to.
Yeah.
And it is, in my eyes, what makes a complex character turn into still a very complex character, just one who is very much in the wrong.
Then he's a villain.
Yeah. And it is just a case of we get to see this sweet baby boy in comparison turn into this.
If you don't have that scene, then you can very much side with Shane.
Yeah. Whoa! Aside from.
No,
you mean that
that's
scene?
what I meant. Yeah,
okay.
If you cut that out,
yeah,
then
I guess
Shane is someone who you probably should have rooted for. Not to mention that Rick becomes. I'm not saying Rick becomes Shane, but he
just become a little similar.
He's kind of worse in some way.
The Rick dictatorship.
Yeah, I mean, I say that season 6 Rick is like worse than season 2 Shane, but that's.
Well, we'll
Yeah,
get to
we'll get there.
we'll burn that bridge when we get there.
Yeah.
But it is a case of even without that scene. I remember when I was watching this. So from hindsight, I agree, 100%. I could see someone seeing the complex, Shane and being like, I get it, man. He's not in the wrong. He's not a hero, but at the same time, he's definitely not the villain, right?
He's the Punisher.
If he's the Punisher, if you remove
Let
that,
me tell you something, man.
I'm a better wife than you. I'm a better wife than you. Hey yo. If you remove that scene with Laurie in the place, but Hudefa, as I was watching this as I was watching this season, going from episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I didn't really like shit. I was like, this guy.
This rat bastard.
Number one, he needs to sit down and speak to Rick. Number two, he needs
Yeah.
to sit down and speak to Rick and Laurie in the same room.
Uh-huh.
Number three, he needs to then, like, what I would have. Okay, in this situation where I don't think I'd ever put myself in, right? You know what I would do?
If I get shot and go into a coma and you
I will fuck your wife. I'm sorry to say.
Okay.
But I would if you rocked up, Nathan, and you were like, what's going on? And then like I'm kind of conflicted, and I'm like, first of all, I'll tell you what's up and hope you didn't shoot me in the head. Second of all, then I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna go. I don't think I'm wanted here.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm needed here. And I'm gonna leave. And then I would leave. And I don't know if that's entirely the best thing to do. I think I'm a little bit of a coward for saying that. I think that's very much avoidant tendencies showing there.
Also, like Rick is not he's not an aggressive man.
No, he's not.
At least
also,
at this point, anyway. So and that's your best mate. So you probably could have just spoken to him.
could have just explained him to the fact. Also,
And
their
like
relationship.
Rick says that he gets it to Laurie in season 2.
Yeah. And also, their relationship is kind of fucked, anyways. We
Oh
get
yeah,
flashbacks
the two of them were not in a good place, and before the apocalypse.
Yeah. Rick wanted them to be in a good place, but Laurie kind of seemed like she was looking
Oh
for the
man,
closest
Laurie
escape.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
But in terms of the CDC, I think that was really interesting, especially the first episode of the CDC,
They're all
which
getting
is
drunk.
called, what's it called? Wildfire. That's good downtime to see where all the characters are at, especially after all the loss. If you've got Andrea, who's just lost their sister, T-Dog being a pointless side character, Glenn, everyone's getting drunk as well, which I pretty much enjoy. It was probably the happiest that they're gonna be. Yeah, I think so. And then you get into what actually happened, and it turns out that they don't know what happened.
They have zero clue.
Yeah. And that's pretty scary. And you see Dr. Edwin Jenner, who's definitely not right, and he's kind of just waiting out the clock.
He's giving up.
Yeah.
So
and-
was it revealed right away that the patient, the patient?
No, that's what I think it's called. TS19 is the
TS19.
last one. Yeah. And that is test subject 19, which is Dr. Edwin Jenner's wife, who was the better doctor.
The good one.
Yeah.
And then it's insinuated that she wanted him to keep researching,
And that's
looking
the
for a
only
solution.
reason why he's there. And he's the only one left.
Yep.
In terms of the wider universe, maybe we get hints to what genuinely started it. I don't know. I don't want to spoil things, but it's very... I like that The Walking Dead isn't about that, for the most part.
Yeah, definitely. It comes back to
we'll get
people,
there.
doesn't it? It always comes back to people. It's called The Walking Dead, not for the zombies and not for the cure, but for the people we know, die. And we do see a lot of that in this show. It's like the moments before their death, the days before their death, the weeks before their death.
Yeah.
That's what the show's about.
Yeah.
And it's a scary thought, It's always horrible when you're watching something and it's a little bit depressing. You're like, damn, they're all gonna die, aren't they? And it is a reality in the show because you're watching these characters. You're like, oh, that's an interesting character. I wonder what. Oh,
Well,
he's dead.
you've even got characters in this season who decide to stay in the building as it blows up.
Yeah.
You've got Jackie and you've got Andrea who wants to die.
Yeah.
and you've got Dale, who would not accept that shit.
It was like, I want you to live.
Yeah, obviously,
And
like Dale and Andrea's relationship is very different from the comics to the TV show.
interesting.
Yeah, because I think they'd be banging in the
Oh,
comics,
oh, oh
but like
God! What
it's
the
a
hell?
bit
They're meant to have a
strange.
wholesome father-daughter type relationship.
No.
Damn. Okay,
Also,
never mind.
Andrea's like a love interest for Rick in the comic book, and you
What?
start to see hints of that. They kind of start flirting with each other in the department store, but just telling you now, that does not happen.
That's not a thing, right?
No,
Well,
but like
spoilers. I was gonna read the comics.
that's like end game, like for comic book styles.
Okay, right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that it also sets up tension. You got the Rick and Shane drama, and then you've also got Edwin Jenner whispering something into Rick's ear as they leave.
What did he say?
What did he say? You find out in the finale of the next season.
What?
I think people's reaction to being locked into the building is quite funny. Like Daryl is really aggressive. Like he just goes
Yeah.
for the axe and starts swinging at the door.
He's a survivor.
Rick starts bargaining. Shane pulls out a gun. Like seeing everyone's different what they do. Like everyone's character are so like just well built. It's just fantastic. I think that season 1 is like a really good starting point for the show. I could argue it's one of the best. Weirdly enough, I think I like season 2 more, but we'll get to that in the next video. But yeah, what's your general like thoughts on season 1?
Great soup.
And what do you think about like where Rick is?
Rick Rick is a person. Rick is a father. Rick is a friend. Rick is a sheriff.
Rick feels like well, especially season 1 Rick. Rick feels like someone that like I could know.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
you could
He's very
you
much
could
human.
picture Rick being a policeman.
Yeah.
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 It's like this guy who's reasonable, this guy who's worldly, but at the end of the day, he wants to do good. He wants to do right.
He embodies like hope in
Yeah,
season 1
100%.
and humanity, and he's still carried it with him because he hasn't seen the worst of it yet.
Yet. Yeah, so all this horror, all this intrigue,
Yeah.
all this
And because he's new to the
social.
world, he missed all the
Yeah.
worst bit.
So okay, we kind of touched on that earlier on at the beginning of this this recording, but you mentioned how one of the biggest parts of a zombie apocalypse is the intro, the opening.
Yeah.
It's not only is it the biggest parts, it's the most marketable because it's fun. It's interesting. You get these human beings, you chuck them out of their normal life, you throw them into zombie apocalypse, see what they have to do. This department head, this nerd, this head teacher, this doctor, what occurs? What do they decide to do? How do they react to the end of the
Glenn,
world?
who just used to deliver pizza,
My boy
is
oh,
an
my sweet
insane
baby boy.
strategist. Yeah.
But when you remove that, you're left with what's left of these people. It's like these aren't the first survivors. These are the week-long, month-long survivors. These are the ones who've been through it. Like
I
they
think
saw the military
that
action.
AMC understood that they missed out on a big part of what makes some of these apocalypse movies great, and that's why they started the spin-off version Fear the Walking Dead, which is meant to be that. It's set
Yeah.
day 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's good or not though. Is it
No,
good?
yeah. I've seen like 3 seasons, but it's definitely not
As good.
bearing in mind, like in terms of my relationship with the series, I think that they have never recaptured this. They've never recaptured The Walking Dead.
The Walking
I
Dead
think
feel, yeah.
that Fear the Walking Dead's bad, World Beyond bad. I do think that the Telltale's Walking Dead is better. Is at least season 1. Season 1 of the Telltale's Walking Dead is, I would say, way better than this season. If that
I
makes
agree.
sense.
I concur.
Obviously, different medium, but in terms of like storyline and plot,
To be-
Clementine and Lee,
Oh God.
chef's kiss. It just
See, the thing is, I think I have a bit of a bias with the games, right? Because
yeah.
Clementine and me,
Hadafa, I introduced Hadafa to the Walking Dead
Games
universe,
first.
and we did games first,
yeah.
and like I do not regret it because that is probably how I would introduce more people to the franchise.
Oh my God, it was amazing. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Clementine. Oh,
Genuinely
Clementine.
great. Shit, we could do a video on that at some point.
We
but,
should.
fucking damn, what was I saying? At a point. Oh yeah, even the spin-off show, like the Daryl Dixon spin-off show, and like you got The Ones Who Live and Dead City. As much as they do capture a element of the show that I like, I think that what they did in 2010 cooked,
Right.
and like they just never got that back again.
Which is- You
No,
think
like I think that the show peaks after season 5. I know a lot of people love season 6, but like I've got issues with Rick in season 6, and that's why I don't really like it as a whole.
Well, I'll be looking forward to getting up to that point.
Yeah, yeah. But The Walking Dead season 1 is just some of like it's the start. And I
The
love to
beginning.
see how like where all these people start. And it's great.
Yeah.
I love it.
Sensational work. Season 1,
Yeah.
very, very good. I
How
think
would
I
you
rated it
rate
quite
season
highly.
1 out of 10?
Oh, it's been a while though, hasn't it? I can't.
0.5s.
I think yes, 0.5s, and I think I can't quite recall what I gave it to begin with. I think I gave it a relatively high number. I don't know if it was inflated by my, like my recency bias.
Yeah.
But honestly, now looking back to it, I enjoy it even more. I guess maybe because I have the power of hindsight. I would give it, understanding that my ratings are quite strict, a solid an
Ooh.
8.9 out of 10.
8.9 out of 10. Okay.
Great season.
I would put season 1 of The Walking Dead probably maybe below you.
Damn.
I would say an 8 out of 10. It misses, for me, because I think I know what I like more.
Right.
Oh, I know
What did it
like
for you?
my favorite seasons already,
Yeah.
So
Oh,
like,
I see.
and I know what's missing, what those seasons have, which this season doesn't.
Okay.
Yeah, and
I
it's
think.
again, it is just a time thing and like a character development thing,
Mhm.
but I guess I won't reveal what my favorite season is yet.
Yeah. Exactly.
But
Spoilers.
I do think that yeah, even writing and stuff like it's still new at this point. But yeah, I would say solid 8, and I love it. I genuinely think this is great.
It's great. It's sensational. I don't know.
Yeah.
See, the thing is, I watched a recap, and like I remember all the good parts.
Yeah.
I don't really remember
But
any
there's
of the
not a
bad
lot
parts.
of bad parts to it. All the special
Right.
effects look great. The zombies
Right.
look fun.
Right.
I do think that the whole women thing's a bit weird.
Okay.
And I guess it could be a bit slow, but like the more I watch season 1, the more I like it. Whereas like as a kid, I didn't really like it too much because I did find it to be like boring. Where's the zombies?
Right.
But no, yeah, it does grow on you. Okay. Oh, okay. Last question. Who was your favorite character from season 1?
Favorite. Well, but I feel like I locked onto him, man. So at this point, I think if you ask me my favorite character for all the seasons so far, I'd say someone different. I won't say who, but I'd say someone different. But just season 1, my boy Glenn.
Okay, the goat.
The goat.
The goat.
He's not exactly like, I don't have to work. The thing is, Rick, there's things to say. Shane, there's things to say. Daryl Dixon, my boy, things to say.
Very hostile in season 1.
He is quite hostile, isn't he? But there, like Glenn just
Throw
shines out,
screws at
bro.
your head.
There, 12 bundled squirrels. Dead squirrels. But Glenn, from instantly, end of season 1. What did he
He's
say?
got a lot of life in him as well, which I really appreciate. Where everyone's
Yeah.
really sad and having like the worst time. Like I do think that Glenn's life got better after the apocalypse, not worse.
It reminds me of myself.
Like he was driving that sweet ass car in
Yeah.
season 2. He meets Maggie. Like I'm telling you, his life just gets better and better.
Yeah, I feel like he is kind of like the imagination of some of nerds like us having the zombie apocalypse. Because obviously, I
Yeah.
think the zombie apocalypse would be horrifying. But at the same time, there's another part of me that's kind of like, let's go. I'm ready. I'm prepared. I've watched enough
Yeah.
movies.
Yeah.
I think there's a line that he has at the end of the first episode, right? Near the end, he's like, "Hey, you, dumbass,
Hey, dumbass.
you in the
You in
tank."
the
Goes he in there?
Yeah.
And it's just and
Good
for that line alone, top character.
Yeah. I would say my favorite character, surprise, it is Rick Grimes.
Yeah.
I think that he does work very well in season one. His like hopefulness and humanity I find really intriguing, and I think that Rick's character works best when he's being a good dad.
Yeah.
And I think that he's trying to set a good example for his son, or just trying to keep his son alive. Great. Okay, so if you have enjoyed season one of The Walking Dead,
Which I did.
yeah, tell us about it in the comments below. Please subscribe.
Like, why are you begging? Okay, relax. Relax.
Yeah,
Subscribe if you feel like it.
subscribe if you want. And we will be back for The Walking Dead season 2 review. So yeah, thank you for watching. Ade, for any final words?
Glenn
Carl!
Girl. If you if you guys want to hear other topics, we're a bunch of nerds, and we have probably watched, read, seen everything under the sun. Be it books on my side or movies on Nathan's side, we could probably cover the vast majority of common pop culture. If you guys want to have us talk about any particular thing, throw it in the comments, and maybe we'll do it if we're not lazy enough. If we feel
Maybe.
like it. Maybe, yeah.